Welcome back all. You can really feel it now. Clocks went back yesterday, 4:30 now, and I can just tell that within an hour, everything is going to be plunged into darkness, but it's fine. Tomorrow morning, bright and early, we're heading off to Tenerife for a couple of weeks. So this will be the last podcast episode for a couple of weeks from here in England, because this time next week, I'll be recording bathed in Canarian sunshine. Thank you as ever, everyone, for getting in touch, sharing your thoughts and opinions. Best place to do so, comment section below. And if you have a longer story, maybe with some pictures, you can email hi@tuesdayatdobbs.com. Your input really is hugely appreciated and completely essential. I'll start this week. Is biking one of the finest ways to experience travel? Is it one of the best ways to experience the absolute thrill of freedom? I personally think so. I don't think there is any finer way to explore the world, to soak in the things around you, to feel like you're on a real adventure than motorcycling. And I think that Henry and Nicola, with the first story, will sum up this far better than I can with their genuine trip of a lifetime. What they've been up to over the past 4 months. Take a listen to this. Pictures included as I read it out. Freddie, the Africa twin, arrived safely in Anchorage, Alaska from England, and we hit the road in the first week of July. The shipping was straightforward. Aside from one small paperwork error, all went smoothly. We spent approximately 2 weeks in southern Alaska exploring glaciers and getting used to the camping setup. On to Canada, over the famous top of the world highway and into Yukon. The weather changed for the better and the vastness blew our mind. Did you know, oh this is mind-blowing, did you know that the Yukon is around twice the size of the UK? So the UK has a population of 67 million people. But the Yukon geographically is twice the size, and it has a population, not 66 million, but of 44 or 45,000 people. That is staggering. We took on the mighty Dempster Highway to the Arctic Ocean. That's 4 days of nothing but challenging dirt road and wilderness. We camped on the beach, arriving at 10 p.m. with the sun still high in the sky. We learnt that polar bears had been on this exact beach some 2 weeks earlier. To date, nothing has topped this experience. We continued south to British Columbia to find endless dirt road and highways leading you to more wonders of nature. For example, Salmon Glacier. There's too much to share here in a short summary, but the Canadian people are some of the kindest people on earth, and we've made friends for life. Back to the US and into Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California. Riding the famous Beartooth Pass at over 10,000 feet elevation into Yellowstone Park. It's been a sensory overload of canyons, mountains, forests, and deserts that the mind of someone from little old England can barely comprehend. Some 20,000 kilometers now traveled. That's 20,000 kilometers since July on this American road trip. Our next destination is mainland Mexico, then down through Central America. So what have I learned so far? That your life can be completely full with only the possessions that you can fit into a motorcycle pannier. The kindness of strangers knows no bounds, and how travelling great distances overland on 2 wheels, exposed to everything, can free your mind of trivial things that once seemed so significant. Also, the Africa Twin is a seriously robust and comfortable long-distance bike for 2 up, Henry and Nicola. No words needed from me there. That's a life-affirming story, and seeing those pictures, thank you both so much for sharing it. On now, the new breed of bikes. This is from Dave. Freddie, with Triumph's new, and I've paraphrased this slightly, so bear with me. With Triumph's new 400cc range, this CFMoto, the, apologies for my pronunciation, Vogue, I think it's Vogue. The Vogue, to name a few, all now making astonishing bikes for the same price or less than the BSA Gold Star. You know, this is true. £5,000-ish. If you look at the market, the selection of bikes that we're all getting is phenomenal. I know at the moment there's a lot of doom and gloom, and I share a lot of this doom and gloom with regards to bike dealers closing, F and Y going on, or X and Y going on. But there's also a huge amount of positivity because the motorcycle industry is dynamic. If there's something going on, if customers such as ourselves ask for something, i.e. smaller, lesser powered bikes, then the industry does deliver. If you compare this, for example, to the car industry, the Germans have always been at the forefront of the car industry, but they're hugely struggling at the moment. And the common theory for why the Germans are struggling right now in the car industry is because the cars they're making are getting more and more expensive, and they're making a lot of electric cars. And then you combine those two things, they're trying to make and sell a lot of really, really expensive electric cars. But no one is asking for expensive electric cars. So it's not surprising the German automotive industry is struggling so much because they're trying to force feed a market, something they just haven't asked for. But look at how lucky we are in the motorcycle industry. We've said, voting with our feet, voting with our wallets, we want well-priced bikes. We want simple, well-priced bikes that we can actually afford and just simply use. And the motorcycle industry, the market, is delivering with the likes of the Royal Enfields coming along, the Triumph 400s coming along, CFMoto, Voja. There are loads of new brands coming along, offering what we've been asking for. Take a look at this. This is a really good indication of how far things have come now. I didn't realize things were getting so ultra competitive. You may not believe your eyes, but take a look at this. I'll put a picture of the bike up as I discuss it. It is, and apologies, I'm so unfamiliar with this bike, I'll actually have to open it up. CFMoto 700 CLX Heritage. In essence, this is CFMoto, which is a Chinese brand. It's their retro-looking roadster. You could put it, I guess, against the Yamaha XSR 700. You could maybe even put it against the Triumph Trident, for example. The stats on this bike: 700cc, 196 kilos wet weight, 73 horsepower, came out in 2021, MCN rated at 4 out of 5 stars. But just look at that price. Brand new bike. 700cc with all the horsepower that you're ever going to need. This isn't a low power machine, and it's under £5,000. I did a double take when I saw this. You know, they said back in the 60s, 70s, the Japanese destroyed the British bike industry because they made better priced bikes that actually worked. Look at what the Chinese are doing now, £5,000. It's almost impossible to argue with this. Look, there are always going to be people that say, oh yes, but it's a Chinese bike. But I think, from what I've seen, there's far more acceptance to Chinese bikes than there has been in years gone by. At its core level, what the Chinese are offering is what we're asking for. They're offering great value bikes. They're offering a way that more people can get into motorcycling. And look, I think that's something that should be celebrated. If I'm being completely honest, I'm glad that Moto Guzzi make Moto Guzzi in Italy, and I'm glad Harley Davidson still make a lot of their Harley Davidsons in the USA. But this is just a good Chinese bike, and that should probably be celebrated, especially at a price like that. And from a looks point of view, I think it looks really good. CFMoto owners as well in general, they seem to really, really like their bikes. On now to auction success. This is from Billy. Oh, this is from last week when I discussed the Motormine auction bikes coming in on eBay. And so many people have been saying they've been loving for months, for years, going on and buying bikes from Motormine. I've had people saying they bought 4 bikes from them, 8 bikes from them, 3 bikes from them, and Billy has literally just picked one up. Take a listen. 2 weeks ago, pictured, I purchased the famous Honda Deauville 650 as a stolen recovered project from Motormine. This legendary 650cc shaft-driven V4 engined baby tourer cost me a whopping £410 plus £99 delivery, and it was running. The ignition wires were cut by the thieves, but I used heat shrink. I mean, that's it, simple fix. I used heat shrink solder wire connectors to connect it all back up, gave it a good clean, and now she runs by the turn of the key. What a deal. She still needs a few odd jobs doing, but I'm planning on having it finished up fairly soon and perhaps doing the Scottish North Coast 500 next year. But for less than £600 all in, it certainly is a great project. Billy, this is the fascinating thing for me. All of these bikes at Motormine, and I've been paying close attention to these, they all sell. They all have a huge amount of views on a daily basis on them, and they all receive multiple bids. This, for me, it perfectly demonstrates that we're having a re-leveling of motorcycle prices. Everything went crazy during COVID, and now I truly believe this is going to be a positive thing, because bike prices went absolutely crazy during COVID. We're now seeing a leveling off of where motorcycle used prices should be. Because if you price a motorcycle correctly, like at Motormine, because they're all up for auction, the highest bidder wins it, they will all sell. Meaning there's still very much a strong market for used motorcycles, but it has to be the right price. And this has been the most eye-opening thing for me, watching the prices and watching the activity on Motormine. All bikes sell, all of them, for the right price. Billy, great deal. Lovely looking bike, a solid workhorse, and surely one of the most trusty bikes out there, full stop. On now to buying insurance write-off bikes. I wanted to follow up on this. If you're thinking of buying one of these bikes from auction, are there any negatives around it, and what's the reality? A few people have wanted me to flag this up, so take a listen if you're considering buying a write-off motorcycle. From Tony. Freddie, one thing about Motormine, I discovered them a few months back, and I got a bit trigger happy with them, or with the bid button, and I bought 4 bikes. I fixed them myself, but now I simply have too many in the garage. I'm trying to sell them at very low prices, but nobody wants them. And then from Alan, I've bought 2 bikes off Motormine, and I'm currently looking to buy a 3rd. There are 2 points I feel need to be made here. The first is that these bikes are all what used to be known as Cat N, and as such, that category, which for any non-Brits means non-structural, it was an insurance write-off, but it wasn't so severe, for example, that it bent the frame or did anything serious. So they were known as Cat N, and as such, the category sticks with them in their record at the DVLA, even though the V5 logbook doesn't mention it. Then, if they're involved in another accident or theft, this is the important bit, the insurance companies will reduce their payout by as much as 25%. I feel buyers should be aware of this, because I sold one of my buys from Motormine, and I felt bad when the new owner had an accident and it was written off, and he had to accept a lower offer from the insurance company because of its status at the DVLA. You know, this has been a common thread here. Buy an insurance write-off bike, but you have to accept that it needs to be either a keeper of a bike, i.e. you don't plan to sell it on, or accept that potentially, and I'm over-exaggerating here for dramatic effect, you may have to accept that you'll be selling it for pennies because you have to drop the price so much because, relatively speaking, write-off motorcycles are so unappealing. And bear in mind, I speak as an owner of an insurance write-off motorcycle. My Bonneville is an insurance write-off. So if, let's say, a really good condition Triumph Bonneville, my year, would be worth £3,800, £4,000. Let's say one with my mileage is probably worth £3,000. Let's say one with my mileage and the fact it's being written off, i.e. my exact bike, you would probably have to say the market value somewhere around the £2,000 mark, not much more than that at all. That's the reality if I were to genuinely want to sell my bike. This, I love doing this. This is insurance premiums affecting some bikes, but all may not be as it seems. So Simon left a comment last week. A dealer couldn't give me a Part X on my Ducati. He said that a hike in insurance premiums have meant people are dumping their Ducatis at an alarming rate. Remember that. So this has been such an issue, according to Simon, within the motorcycle industry, within dealers, that some dealers are having to be very, very careful if they even accept a Ducati in part exchange, because owners now, a lot of them don't feel that they can afford to keep the Ducati on the road with things such as insurance premiums. So I decided to do some investigative work on this. This shocked me. Let me get up my pieces of investigation. So I did a few insurance quotes. I put my old house that I used to live in Suffolk, so I put it away from London, just to give you some relativity. Every single quote here that I'm about to read out, it's all exactly the same. 5,000 miles a year. It says I live in Suffolk. I've got 9 years no claims bonus, and I've had my license 14 years or something. Everything's the same apart from the motorbike. And the quote I got for the bike, which is a Ducati Streetfighter V4S, that's a really powerful Ducati with 200 horsepower, £611. Remember that, fully comprehensive, £611. Now, over to the other end of the spectrum, everything the same apart from the bike, Royal Enfield Classic 350. The price, £91 a year. So that's immediately over a £500 saving every year. If I then do one final bike, this is what will shock you. Remember the Streetfighter price of £611. What do you think a Triumph Rocket, again, a 2015 plate Triumph Rocket, so slightly newer than the Ducati and also slightly more expensive than the Ducati. The annual insurance premium, fully comprehensive, £143. Who would have guessed it? The monster that is the Triumph Rocket barely has a higher insurance premium than a Royal Enfield Classic 350, and its price is a quarter that of the Ducati, even though it's a more valuable bike with a 2.5 litre engine. Simon, you are absolutely bang on. That is fascinating. Thank you for sharing it. Oh, now, a bike that you may always have dreamt of deep down. Is it now within reach? Steve over in the US has started this conversation, although Steve, I'm sure you didn't mean to start it. You just triggered something in my mind. Fred, it's not just the bike dealers that are having problems. Go take a look at car dealers over in the US. I've never seen so many Jeeps and Dodge Challengers sitting in the car lots. $70,000 for a Jeep. That's the reason. Harley dealers are full too. Why buy a new bike for $35,000 when you can buy a 10-year-old one for less than half that? Look, inflation has hit us all over the world. Until that comes down, this is how it's gonna be. Although I've never heard of a Harley dealer not taking a Harley in trade-in. Steve, I thought I'll see what I can find over here in the UK. Dream level Harley Davidson. For me personally, it would be something like the iconic Harley Davidson Road King, one of the most famous names in motorcycling. I've been pleasantly surprised here by the value and what's actually available in the market. You can really get some tantalizing deals on the big name Harley Davidsons. Just take a look at this from Facebook Marketplace. This is a 2000 model, 24 years old, Harley Davidson Road King, listed 5 months ago, and these are not difficult to find, bear in mind, for £5,500. I found a couple at £5,000, but this is the one I really like. Take a listen. This Road King has fairly high mileage, but it has a full ground-up rebuild, runs and rides very nicely, will come with a new MOT, that's the annual check. It's also got some good transmission internals and a hard set of bags for the bike. Low ballers will be blocked. The mileage, I know it says kilometers, ignore that, it is in miles. 79,000 miles on the clock. But is that really a lot? Because these are Harley Davidsons, they're meant for the great American outdoors. They're meant for American road trips. These are bikes made to go forever. So yes, you could say 79,000 miles is a lot, but I would argue, as strongly as possibly, that that is not much for Harley Davidson. That's nothing to be worried about. And to get that amount of bike for £5,500, a dream bike for £5,500, I know what you may be saying next. You may be saying, yes, it looks nice, but it's going to cost a lot to run and look after. I've saved you time. I've done another insurance quote for you, again at the exact same property, same situation as the other bikes I've mentioned, for this 2000 model Harley Davidson Road King, and the annual insurance, fully comprehensive, £79 a year. For any non-Brits, I promise you it's not a typo, that is not monthly, that is £79 a year. This is so exciting because we can get dream bikes, the stuff you'd have had posters on your wall, the Harley Road King, £5 grand, and could you ever have imagined that? £79 a year, legit, fully covered insurance. I'm excited. That type of stuff, to know that it's within reach, is incredibly, incredibly exciting. Moving on now, this is a request for help from Roddy. What do you do? Let's say you're riding a bike and you get hit. Listen to this situation Roddy's in. Freddie, I was at a red light in Portsmouth last week. A new driver hit the wrong pedal and rear-ended my bike, which actually was a former Bike of the Week from last year. I was very calm with her, no point getting angry. The damage was a rear silencer at £875 plus VAT and some cracked plastics, let's say £400. The other side admitted liability and their insurer contacted me to allow them to handle the claim. In terms of maths, open market value of my 2011 K1600 BMW is probably £5,000 to £6,000, but I've spent money on it renewing the suspension, handlebar controls and brakes to the tune of £2,000. Look, you may say I've overinvested in the bike and that's fine, but my objective simply, all I want is my bike back again. No recorded damage against it for the reasons, funnily enough, I mentioned earlier in the episode. Some money for the parts and I will be a reasonable citizen and not add pressure to everyone else's premiums by claiming whiplash, leg injury, nor even request a loan bike. All that's requested is enough money to fix the broken parts. That's it. But what do I do? 3 options here. Number 1, if the insurers take my bike away and examine it, will I ever see my bike again? Trade-in value, bearing in mind your recent commentary, is likely to be £2,500 maximum. So I end up with £2,500, an increased insurance premium, and a shortfall of £3,000 to replace my bike with a poorer quality bike. Number 2, do I ask for them to settle in cash? I will do the repairs myself. Let's say it's £1,500 for parts and a new helmet. But the bike goes down on the accident register as a category N, so an insurance write-off. Thus it's practically unsellable. And finally, option 3, I take the risk and allow them to take the bike away in the hope that they repair it for £2,000 to £2,500 and I actually get it back. But is it likely that this happens and I get my bike back fully fixed? And will it still be recorded as a category N? What should I do? A very worried and confused subscriber, Roddy from Southampton. Roddy, I'll share any interesting insight, but also check out all of the comments from this week's episode because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people giving some really useful insights in what you should do. On now, Bike of the Week. Freddie, I bought a Yamaha Roadster XV 1700, brand new in 2007. It was a USA import and it cost me £6,400. It's now 18 years old, has done 42,000 miles, and I've taken it to various European countries. The latest trip was to Spain and Portugal. It's been very reliable. All it's needed in 18 years is a new clutch, master brake cylinder, and new head bearings. Apart from the usual pads, oil and filters, of course. It's got bags of character. It shakes, spits, and thumps away, and still attracts a lot of attention. Sounds great with a Roadhouse exhaust, and the single carb has been no trouble. As you can see, I've personalized it, and it is like riding an armchair, comfort-wise. Here you can see me home in Dartford from a trip to the Yorkshire Dales earlier this year. Rob and I really like these bikes. It's a common thought within the cruiser segment of the market that within the Japanese motorbikes, Yamaha make the best cruisers. I've found one of these. In fact, they're fairly rare, a little bit rarer than I thought, but these are 700 or 1700cc bikes. They're air-cooled, they've got 85 horsepower. They made them from 2002 to 2010, and there's a small handful, but all of the ones that I've found are good roadworthy bikes. You don't find any of these that have been left for years, for example. These are usually very, very well loved bikes. And the one I've picked out to show is one on Auto Trade this week. This is actually straight from a dealer, which is really interesting because dealer prices here are about £5,600, but the cheapest private sale I could find on Facebook Marketplace was around £1,000 more than this. So it just shows how crazy the market is at the moment, that actually you get the best deal buying from a dealer. I mean, take a look at this. Lovely looking bike in white, 3 lights at the front, 14,000 miles on the clock, absolutely nothing. Aftermarket exhaust, comfort seat. It even comes with panniers. I mean, this is fully loaded, good to go. £5,500. And what a bike to do some colossal road trips on. I saw one of these a couple of days ago, and they are extremely good looking machines. And I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this week's episode. Have a brilliant week all. See you all in the next one.